Good girl. All right, you stay close, okay? All right. Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is the Sunday garden question and answer video that I do on Sundays, answering your garden questions. You can leave questions down below this video. I started a contest or a drawing for a free consultation. I'll announce the winner of that. That was in last week's video. I've done that a couple times now. And thanks everybody for participating. Thanks for your nice comments and the questions from last week's video. I will do another one of these consultation giveaways pretty soon. So there'll be other chances to win a consultation. The consultations are also linked down below as well. Okay, the new channel. I mentioned I have a new channel last week. I think there are 5 videos on it. Probably will be a 6th one before you guys see this video. And several other things shot. So I'm going to build that channel out quickly. That channel is going to be, I got several questions. You know, a lot of the videos I have on my channel are mostly for the Southeast United States because I'm in the Southeast United States. That channel is going to be for everyone. I am going to do a lot of traveling this next year, and so it's going to be plants for everywhere in every region. But, you know, for this first winter, you know, the things that are looking good in the landscape are down here in the South. So it will be mostly southern things until, you know, middle spring, and I start doing some traveling. But that channel will be for everyone. And I'm putting everything in playlist for, so, you know, if you are looking for shade plants that grow in zone 6, there'll be a playlist for that. If you're looking for drought tolerant plants for zone 8, there's a playlist for that. I think one of the videos that's up so far is in 50-some playlist. And so that's how I'm dividing these. So, you know, those playlists will fill out as the channel grows, obviously. And eventually, hopefully, they'll be basically a reference for whatever type of thing you're looking for. If you're looking for deer-resistant plants for zone 6, there'll be a playlist for that. May have nothing in it yet, but soon it will. So anyway, that's how the new channel is going to be laid out. Thank you guys for subscribing. Lots of you had a hard time finding it. I think I'll talk more about that in a minute, but it is linked down below this video, the other channel. I think, gosh, as I'm shooting this, there's like 850 subscribers already, and there were 3 when I mentioned it last week. So thank you guys for subscribing to the channel and watching the videos. I think I need 4,000 hours of watch time to monetize that channel, so that'll be a little while. But the 1,000 subscribers have come very quickly, so thank you. Okay, enough of that. Somebody asked, first question, somebody asked about screening plants for zone 7B, which I'm in zone 7B. I've got there's a screening plant playlist on this existing channel that has lots and lots of screening plants in it. If you go to my main channel page, there's a button that says playlist, and then you can search the playlist. One of them is screening plants. Because you live in 7B where I do, almost every plant in that list would be for you. I like to use a mixed screen like what you're seeing behind me. There's a sunshine ligustrum over there that's yellow, I think you can see. And then there's this larger growing loropetalum behind me. And then those are tea olives that are actually blooming. So this is the type of screen that I like to create, using lots of different kinds of plants. A little further down, there's a podocarpus. A little further down, there's an alyssium. Going that way, there's another alyssium. There's another type of tea olive. There's a clayera. I like to use lots of different things to create my screens. I've talked about this many times. If you use all the same thing, if something comes along and some disease or insect comes along, it's going to wipe your whole screen out. So the more diversity that you can put in the screen, the better for that reason. And just honestly, just kind of looks better. It's a nicer buffer. Plus, I mean, think about this. The tea olives are blooming right now, so I can smell those right now. Fragrant flowers. This loropetalum will bloom in the early spring. The sunshine ligustrum doesn't need to flower. The alyssium will flower in the late spring. You know, so on and so forth. I mean, also have a mixed border of flowering things. There's almost always something flowering in that border. And they wanted, for whatever reason, they mentioned that it's a new house and something that would go with their new Bermuda sod. Well, the main thing I would do is get rid of the Bermuda grass. Bermuda grass is a wire grass, or, you know, these are hybrid Bermuda, so it's not as bad as regular wiregrass, but that Bermuda is going to trail everywhere constantly. I've got zoysia, and zoysia will creep, and it does creep into my beds, but it's much, much slower. Centipede is much slower, so there are warm season grasses that are less aggressive. than Bermuda grass. I don't like to use Bermuda grass in residential landscaping. Works great on a golf course because, I mean, it got, you swing the club, you put a hole in the ground, the Bermuda grass will fill right back in very quickly. It's kind of designed to repair itself very quickly. It will run all through your beds constantly. And I don't like to have things that are a lot of maintenance that take away from me being able to actually garden. If you only have, let's say you only have an hour or two a week to actually garden, and that hour or two a week is spent mowing and getting your Bermuda grass back under control, it just takes away from being able to actually add to and improve your garden space. And so if there's any way, I mean, if there's any way to switch that out, I'm just telling you, living with Bermuda grass is not fun, and there'll be comments down below this video confirming that. It is self-repairing, and so, if you have a lot of foot traffic on it, it's a good choice. Okay, let's see. I spent a lot of time on that one, didn't I? Somebody said they have a ton of acorns and wanted to know if there was any kind of concern for having that many on the ground. No, not at all. It's no big deal. This tree this year had a ton, and they're just completely covering the ground. And I had somebody else talk about, using like the Farmer's Almanac, for if the old timers had some ability to tell the future by the things that are happening. No. I don't believe we have any ability to tell the future. Heck, they don't know the temperature 7 days from now is all the technology that we have in the world. So I don't think anybody can figure out whether this winter is going to be cold or warm or whatever based on acorns on the ground. I can see why people would have wanted to know, to try to read the future. I mean, if you were farming in 18 something and you didn't know, you didn't have the kind of technology that we have now and tractors and, we know a lot more than we did then. We have a lot more science to farm now. You would have been looking for things about time, when should I plant this crop or whatever. So I can understand it, but no, we can't tell the future with anything. One of the things you have to think about with these oak trees dropping all these acorns at one time, this is an evolutionary strategy. We want to look to this as, we can see plants flower and fruit a lot more when they're in trouble. So I don't want to discount that. So like my neighbor's maple over here is putting out just absolutely tons of seeds because it's under stress. And so plants will do that. But a healthy oak will actually do this tons of acorn things one year and then just a few the next few years. Part of this is an evolutionary thing where if that thing gave off tons of acorns every year, there'd be more squirrels and rabbits and all the things, I don't know if rabbits eat them, but squirrels and other vermin that eat those acorns, we'd have just tons of them. And so just as a strategy, if that oak tree about every so many years drops tons of acorns at once, it kind of overwhelms the animals. Okay, so that some of the acorns have to survive, and obviously for more oaks to form. So it basically feeds them a few every year and then does the big bust, the big mountain of them at one time. So think about it more as an evolutionary trait. And it's not like the tree thought about this and evolved this way. It's just the oaks that have survived do this, and I forget what they call it, but a lot of acorns one year and then not many for a few years on purpose. Otherwise, there'd be more, the animals would eat them all. And so think about it that way. The tree's not trying to tell us that, the earth is going to end in 18 days or don't plant corn for an extra week or, any of that kind of stuff. Okay, somebody asked about removing rocks in their garden when they're planting things. So they're digging and they're finding, whatever size rocks, should they get rid of them? No, the plants don't really have any problem with the rocks. We as humans have all kinds of, Holly's I know, just back and forth here behind me. We have all kinds of problems with the rocks, but I leave them in place unless, occasionally I have to remove one here or there when I was landscaping and would be in those rocky yards. it was really difficult to convince my employees to not dig up rocks all over the place, and us leave a job with a dump truck full of rocks because they thought that you're supposed to get rid of all the rocks as well. So I always had that challenge as well. It's like, no, unless it's the lawn, we do need that flat, and we don't want rocks sticking up in the lawn. So I get rid of a few of those, but the ones out in the beds, unless it's just impossible to dig in, there's no real reason to get rid of them. The plants don't have any problem with them. Some of the rockiest places you'll see in the North Carolina mountains are, they got plants everywhere. They just, the plants deal with it. Again, for humans, it's not fun. Somebody said they were removing leaves from under their green giant. This phone is just messing with me. They're removing leaves under their green giant arborvitae, and the roots are slightly exposed, and we're concerned about that. Well, leave the leaves under their green giant arborvitaes, and it won't be an issue. Just leave them under there, and then mulch over the top of the leaves later on. So regardless of whether, just keep them covered. Keep them covered, and it's not an issue. And then there was some other question about grouping of plants to create a screen. So I think I've just answered that. Yes, I use groupings of plants to create screens, not a single item. It's a much better technique, both visually and for disease and insect problems. Okay, so somebody, their HOA says they have to have a tree. They want a Japanese maple. They want to put the thing in a pot and put the pot into the ground. They can't have a container above the ground for their HOA. Oh my gosh. That would be the end of my channel, wouldn't it? An HOA would be the end of my channel, although it might be entertaining to have Jim at an HOA meeting asking people why it's any of their business that this person has a pot in their front yard. That could be a good channel. Jim visits HOA meetings and tells people to mind their own business. They want to put the thing in the pot because they're worried that the roots from the Japanese maple are going to hurt the foundation of their house. Japanese maple is not going to hurt the foundation of your house. So don't worry about it. Just put the Japanese maple in the ground and don't worry about it. A red maple, like a Acer rubrum that gets 75 feet tall, we might have a different conversation. As you guys know that watch my channel, I wouldn't recommend you ever plant one, but that would be a concern near your house because they do have the big giant surface roots that maybe could do some sort of damage to your house. But if it's a well-built house with a good foundation, this cinder block foundation on this house is 80 years old. It's had trees planted around it since day one. It's got a red bud right here that's 25 feet tall. That red bud's not hurting the foundation of this house. So don't worry about it. Plant Japanese maple in the ground. If you do, just to answer this question, if you take a Japanese maple or any plant and put it in a pot and bury that pot in the ground, two things are going to happen. The water can't get out of that pot because that bottom hole on the pot won't work anymore. So what's going to happen is when it rains heavily, that pot's going to fill up with water and your plant's going to drown. When it doesn't rain, no water can get into it and it's going to dry. So it's either going to die of root rot or it's going to die of drought, one way or the other. And you watering it will just make it worse because you'll fill the pot up with water. So put it in the ground, don't worry about it. And break up your HOA if you can. Okay, somebody asked me about putting a camellia in a lot of shade. Would you get as many buds? No, I've covered that a few times now. I've got, in line of sight right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 camellias. The one over here that's in too much shade has the least amount of flower buds. So part shade on all of them out here, really, because of this tree that's behind me. But the ones that are getting some direct sun have a lot more flowers, or had a lot more flowers this year. Okay, somebody asked me about my drip irrigation schedule. I do have drip irrigation out here. I don't put, if you're in an area that gets regular rainfall, so you're in the eastern United States somewhere, I wouldn't put your drip irrigation on a schedule, period. I'd only run it when it's dry. You may have to hand water your pots, or if you have your drip on a separate system for your pots, that might have to run every day. But the things that are in the ground don't need water every day or every week even. So if it rains that week, go out there and piddle around in a few places and see if the soil's moist. And if the soil's really dry, then turn your drip irrigation on, run it for an hour You can put a little tray underneath one of the drippers and put about 1 inch of water, run it until there's about 1 inch of water in the bowl. That'll be the length of time. So it's going to be up to your pressure, water volume, the length of the hose, all those kinds of things. It could be an hour, could be 30 minutes, could be an hour and a half, I don't know. But put about 1 inch of water out when you need to water, and then leave it alone. But don't, in the eastern United States, don't water just because, it's Tuesday, okay? Your plants will not thrive doing that. They need to be allowed to suffer a bit, okay? That's what makes them push roots. That's what makes them, they need to live a little bit of a tough life. Okay. Somebody asked me, I called the Golden Falls Redbud Cousin It one time earlier this year, my weeping redbud, and they wanted to know the name of it. It's called Golden Falls. Let's see. Somebody asked, I talked about I'm going to have a plastic weed barrier video coming up. They wanted to know what alternatives I would use, and like cardboard. Yeah, you can use cardboard, newspaper, all those kinds of things, but keep in mind, any weed barrier you're putting down and then putting mulch on top of is temporary. Not only just because it breaks down, but also the birds are going to drop weed seeds on top of it. There is no permanent weed barrier, but using the cardboard boxes, if you can get all the plastic tape off of them, or newspaper, if anybody has newspaper anymore, all those things will work temporarily, and they will give you some period of time with less weeds. Okay. Finding the new channel. Several people said that. Google, despite being a search engine, YouTube, and they own YouTube. It's the worst search engine ever. I don't understand it. I don't understand why the YouTube search, YouTube is the second biggest search engine behind Google. So they own the two biggest search engines, but the one for YouTube is terrible. So I don't understand it at all. But so it takes a little while for channel names to populate on YouTube through search. So that's why you were having, it's called Garden Plants with Jim Putnam. If you'll actually just, right below this video, I've got it linked. If that doesn't work for you, then you can go to my homepage for this channel, HortTube with Jim Putnam, and it's linked as one of my favorite channels right there as well. Okay, somebody has an Arizona cypress and it has 2 leaders, and the 2 leaders are coming right from the base. Should they cut one out? No, not with it right down near the base. I don't know where you live. I don't know if you're getting a lot of ice issues. It probably, it's one of those things that could be an issue, but it probably won't be an issue in the time that you're going to be in that house. And so, I'm not going to stress about it all that much, but I would rather not have started with one where they're right at the base. But then I'd be scared to tell you to saw one off at the base and hurt the plant, and it has to fill back out. And just leave it be at this point. Let's see. One last question for this week, and then I'll announce the winner of the giveaway. Somebody asked about that butterfly towers, that white butterfly towers butterfly bush. Would it be available in the spring? Because it's an upcoming release. Hopefully there'll be some availability on them this spring. I would try plantsbymail.com, put your name on the list, maybe there, because I know they're growing them down there at Flowerwood Nursery, and that's where a lot of the plants from Plants by Mail come from. So I'd put your name on the list there. It's one of my, I'm giving a couple talks here in the next 60 or 90 days with some nurserymen, and that's one of the things, I'll bringing up is, plants that I know that are going to be big time winners that I think that more people should be growing. It's one of the things I've been invited to do with a few nurserymen for this early spring, because I have a lot of plants out here that are really just fantastic garden plants that there's not a lot of growers actually growing. So, I'm giving talks on that in the next 90 days or so. The winner, I used the random comment picker. I showed that a couple weeks ago, how I go about picking the winner for the winners with it's a random. The winner for the consultation is Cat Flippin. is the YouTube name. If you'll send me an email to horttube@gmail.com, I will set up an appointment for the consultation. Thank you guys for participating. Ask questions down below. I'll have another question and answer video next week. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all those kinds of things. Thanks for watching.